Hello and welcome to Sacred Heart Music Center in Duluth, Minnesota, for the latest installment of Live from the Heart, Songwriters, Storytellers Series. My name is Clifton Nesseth, and I'll be your host for the night. Tonight's live stream is supported by the Minnesota State Arts Board and highlights the finest music talent in the Northland. This month's series features local songwriters, their creative process, and some stories behind their work. Tonight's guest is Ross Thorn. I have some prepared remarks. Ross Thorn has enjoyed a pastoral upbringing in the northern Wisconsin town of Sugar Camp. His music is warm, timeless, and soulful hymnody. His lyrical writing accurately reflects his very sincere and authentic nature as an empath. His songs are steeped in the familiar, and yet they always find something deeply insightful to sermonize over a humble base of toned woods and strings. As I've gotten to know this man and his music, I've been lucky enough to call Ross a friend, and too often find myself in the mix as he plays his music around these parts. I'll echo WXPR's sentiment of warmth and soulfulness, qualities exhibited by his own spirit. He's one of those musicians who plays in that effortless way that comes with having grown up singing in church and at family get-togethers. He's the only person I know who self-identifies as a grave digger's son. And for a folk singer, this is about as good an origin story as being bitten by a radioactive spider or being a tiny refugee from the planet of Krypton. As a dutiful son looking down into those holes that are empty till they ain't, he found himself a pretty good perch for reflection and introspection. And he's put that to work in his music. In 2023, he released Hugo, his first record, co-produced by his brother Garrett. The 10-track record has made an impression and helped Ross win the Palomino grant last spring, which included an opening slot for Trampled by Turtles Summer Show in Bayfront Park, where he played a lovely set with help from a good assortment of Duluth's most prolific and established musicians. Ross is a man of many skills and hidden talents. He spends his days working as a cartographer. Last night, as we finalized plans for this evening, he texted me a picture of a miniature figurine that he was painting. The figurine was of Michael Myers. It was tiny, but also terrifying. He's an avid Dungeons & Dragons adventurer, a level 8 or 9 dwarvian barbarian, who has recently shifted his focus on other RPG games, including some homemade ones co-designed by friends. He started playing banjo last May, but you won't be able to tell. We're in a vaulted room, so the effect might be lost a bit, but Ross is a man of good standing, and I mean that literally, as he is 6'7", 6'8". We should all be glad NBA scouts never made it out to Sugar Camp, because his true destiny as a stalwart bard of the Northwoods is a truly fitting calling. He's a good hang, a good hug, and you're all in for a treat tonight as we hear his music in this hallowed hall. Take it away, Ross.
I don't think I can live up to that intro. That was excellent. Thank you, Cliff. We'll try. Thank you. That song was called Tomorrow I'll Write the Third Part. This next one is another tune that I wrote, actually for an RPG, a tabletop gaming campaign. So it got out of hand and turned into a real song. So it's called Mariner's Lament.
Oh, Father, where do you go to pray? Down by the harbor to wash your sins away. Buried me down in this watery grave. Oh, Father, where do you go to pray? Oh, Mother, where do you go to pray? Any other would sweep you far away. Bury me now in this watery grave. Oh, Mother, where do you go to pray? Oh, dear widow, where do you go to pray? Out your window, can't see the light of day. Bury me now in this watery grave. Oh, dear widow, where do you go to pray?
Thank you. This next tune's called Hoghead Jig. It's another one that I wrote. Thank you.
Is this okay? All right. Thanks for that music, Ross.
Yeah.
It's been one of those busy days, and it's really nice to come to Sacred Heart and hear the contemplative and busyness of the banjo happening at the same time.
I'm glad I could help. Thank you for an introduction. Wow, it was above and beyond.
Well, so is your music. So, I think it'd be fun to start with the banjo. I know that you're new at that. Where did you learn to play such an instrument?
I first took a banjo workshop at the Northerly here in Duluth, and I loved it. It was so much fun, and some of those tunes that I played, I like immediately began writing with it. It was a blast, and kind of unlocked some stuff for me that I was feeling plateaued on guitar, and so I've been taking lessons with Kyle at the Northerly ever since.
Excellent. It's paying off. Keep those lessons going. I guess one thing that I was thinking about is that, with the guitar that you've been playing, it's been interesting to hear you bring the banjo in to the mix, because with it you've kind of brought like a really kind of an authentic like feel with the clawhammer style stuff. Who have you been listening to that that you've been kind of drawn from on the banjo front?
I'll listen to, Kyle will give me some like homework and we'll just listen to some tunes, so finding whatever on YouTube, but there's a lot of modern players, like Nora Brown is one that I listen to a lot, and Willie Carlisle, who does some traditional ones as well as incorporates that into his own tunes that he's writing. So those are sort of the main ones, and not as, some of the old ones I lose the names of, and sometimes I forget the names of the tunes that I've actually learned, and so I'll have to come like the next week and be like, what is that one that goes like, and just play it a little bit so I can at least communicate it to other people too, because like the social aspect is something that I'm breaking into as well, like jamming with other people and doing these old tunes.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun because one of the things I enjoy with getting to play out with you is that there's a kind of mixture of the old-timey stuff, and then we'll do some Talking Heads covers or some Elton John, and it keeps a nice variation coming across the table on a set list front. So
Totally.
A lot of your Instagram videos and social media work you've been doing has included a friend, a small furry friend.
Yes.
And what's the name of that friend again?
My cat, Aspen.
Aspen. Mm-hmm. And how is Aspen taken to the banjo?
Better than you'd expect. She actually sticks around for the videos. If she's fed for the morning and has gone through her routine, she's pretty content to just stay where she's at, and then I just go to where she's at.
I grew up with practicing flute, and my dogs never were like consenting, I guess. If anything, we heard the opposite usually, and so I'm glad to hear that you've got some company that's going along with the flow.
Yeah, I can't say she enjoys it, but she tolerates it. That's the level I'd say.
Is she getting a cut from all of your streaming royalties and your revenue from your views and your subs?
Yeah, once I start making money from that, she will. Right now, it's hard to split a penny.
Maybe switch into the wet food at that point.
Right. Yeah, just at the end of the day, here's a little wet food treat for you.
All right, well, that takes maybe us back a little bit to the record that you brought out last year, and I know you've had a chance to get out and make the rounds on the media front with that record, but maybe just to recap that a little bit for this audience, if you're not familiar, can you talk about that process and what it took to get that record together?
Yeah, I've been writing songs, so the oldest song on that record is from 2018, and so I had been sort of, I don't know, I took songwriting as a personal practice, and I was trying to get better at it, and there's a bunch of songs from pre-2018 that like I probably won't cut into a record, but I still really like. And so it was just compiling some of these songs that I had written that I was like, oh, this is really good. I would play this out in front of people. And then like having enough build up that I was like, okay, I should probably record. And then it was always pushed till the year after or whatever. But then my brother Garrett Garrett Thorn is a full-time musician who just came out with a record last year as well, but he's down in Nashville, and I was like, you know what, we're going to do it, we're going to set a date, we're actually going to get this thing done, and so I had made some connections through him down there and some friends, and we flew down there. Kevin Denning from up here, who plays steel with us, he came with, and so we went down there and did it with just some friends and friends of friends that I knew down there and through Garrett. So,
All told, how long were you down there working on that?
a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those records that when you listen to it, it's so cohesive, and it sounds like it was recorded in like one time and in kind of an intentional way. And you know, that's not like always the case with records these days.
Yeah, it's actually was kind of a surprise to me, because it was, some records too are like so thoughtfully done that way, where they're like, yep, bottom to top, like this goes on here, this fits with this, we like this, and you know how cohesive it is. But for mine, I think the reason it fits, there's any tie over and I like some sort of like threads through the song, is because they're all written by me in the same time, and like all of the things that I was maybe struggling with or dealing with in my life or like manifesting in all of those tunes. So it kind of, it's like a happy accident that it happened to be kind of cohesive.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, with, you know, making decisions, like not to get it too in the weeds in a music theory front, but like the whole record's dropped like a half step. So like a lot of the tunes are like in E flat or D flat. And, you know, I was curious, like what kind of inspired a choice like that when you were working on it?
Yeah, it was mostly that I was just usually tuned a half step down. For when I'm singing songs like Talking Heads or Elton John or Prince or something at like these other shows, where I'll do a lot of covers, like it's just way easier on my voice to just take it a little bit down, and it's not too jarring because it's just a half step. So that's sort of an artifact of that I was typically down there. But you know, I think I've been, you know, I try to be kind to the string players that play with me, because honestly, those songs, I love them dearly without that stuff, but it sounds so much fuller and a better live experience with adding a lot of people in and adding the right folks in there. So I try to be kind to them and make sure that it's an easy key for everybody else to play.
Well, we don't mind leveraging the open string from time to time. So I'm curious, one of the things that is also kind of striking about your music, and this is a little bit of like, I've had a little bit of a bone to pick with folk music as an idiom and as a genre, because I think in a lot of ways it's a community that's always sort of rooted itself in speaking truth to power, and you know, it's always had kind of a foot in populist camp, and you go back to Guthrie or Phil Ochs or some of the wonderful singer-songwriters through the 60s and 70s during the war in Vietnam. And I do think that what you've tapped into and what you're singing about is often in that vein, and that's something that's kind of rare. I think there's been such a push to sing and almost talk about things in like an impressionistic and indirect way, and your lyrics are kind of sparkling with directness at time. And is that something that you you know, started doing right away with your writing, or is that something that you kind of developed as you got more comfortable with the process?
Yeah, well, some of my earlier writings, like if I think about the pre-2018, so the oldest song on the record to start with is Lion's Den, which is one of the more kind of politically direct ones, maybe, or like kind of direct in a lot of ways of like looking at the state of America, looking at my place in the state of America, and I'm sure a lot of other folks do too, in different camps, and lots of xenophobia from all angles. But so before that, I don't know. I kind of just wrote to write, and didn't really think a lot about things. I just kind of like let this flow take over. But then, as I would be able to harness that and then give directions, or like I'll read something, I'd probably say that like maybe the reason some of that happens is that like most of my inspiration comes from outside of music in general, like lyrically. if I'm reading something, I'll read this phrase or a sentence or like see these words together, and it just sparks something for me in like this educating myself in fiction or nonfiction, but kind of teasing at these themes of power and who has it and who doesn't, and why, and how can we make things better than they are, because they can always be better. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, I was just I just think about how, like this summer, not getting too specific, there was a song that got popular that had kind of a populist overtone, and it took over. And I think what happened is around that time, like one of your tunes got kind of pulled up into a streaming algorithm and suddenly like kind of popped, and it was something that had a little bit of a similar tone, but the difference that was, I think, is really special about the music that you're doing is that you're kind of effortlessly creating music that's questioning the powers that be, but never punching down on people that are marginalized or struggling in their own way, which I think is part of the political division that we have in this country, is kind of understanding the difference between somebody who's being critical of a system that might be unfair and unjust versus people who are just angry at whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, is that something that you're pretty intentional about when you're working on lyrics, or does it just kind of happen that way?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that's a reflection of myself, where I know exactly what you're talking about, and punching down is something that I do as a 6'8" person, but not as like a human being. But I think that, always questioning the powers that be, and working towards that, and realizing that everyone who you look to in the eye, who you see on the day-to-day, is in a very similar boat to you, no matter what. And they're your sibling. They're a reflection of you, and that it's really important that we treat people that way, and we don't look down on anybody else who might be going through something, and listening to things that direct our anger towards each other rather than as a distraction.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I've really enjoyed about kind of getting to know your music and finding a sort of home in it, is like it is like a special role that the folk singer has in being that kind of that role in the king's court, I guess, historically looking back, as the person going, but should we do this, And I think it's really been fun to see how you've explored that in a way that's like authentic and comes across really relatably, and in a way that's like just sort of healthy. So thank you. I just wanted to say thank you as another folk musician and person that enjoys this genre and its role in the communities and stuff. I think that's something that's really unique about how you're going about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, I think there's lots more we can cover, but there's probably some more playing to do too.
Yeah.
Do you want to tee up any of these tunes before we get to them?
All of the ones that I think on this set of songs are from the record. All that first set was new banjo stuff that I had been learning and writing since May. But these tunes, which I'm so thankful you're going to join me for, are all on the record Hugo. So,
awesome. All right.
all right, this first song is called "Give Me a Coin."
Give me a coin if you got it. I'll give you a piece of my mind. You sell it all, hang it on the wall of your big old pretend mind. Well, the good Lord's coming and he ain't said nothing about bringing no dollars and dimes. So give me a coin if you got it, and if you don't, well, that's just fine. You see, my uncle's got a problem, crooked as a coast oak tree, with fancy stores and offshore wars, and he says it's all for me. Well, I'm getting sick of his old pal dicking there, kissing on the junket tours. You see, my uncle's got a problem, but I think I found the cure. Take every dime you make, put it in the bank, hoard it till you take your final breath. In life they say there's just a few sure things. Yeah, the rich keep getting richer than this death. Well, I'm more skeptical than I ought to be about trading odd commodities. Might be uncouth, but it'd be one hell of a feat. So go on, shout power from the tallest steeple and give it back to the hands of the people, out of the pockets of these rich jerks on Wall Street. Take every dime you make, put it in the bank, hoard it till you take your final breath. Fly into space, but remember these sure things. Yeah, the rich keep getting richer than this death. Take it away, Cliff. Take every dime you make, put it in the bank, hoard it till you take your final breath. In life they say there's just a few sure things. Yeah, the rich keep getting richer than this death. Yeah, the rich keep getting richer than this death. Yeah, the rich keep getting richer than this death. This next tune's called Saturday Morning. The sun on Saturday morning, peeking through the blinds, peeking through the blinds. And the snow on the window pane, and on the sleeping pine, on the sleeping pine. You've stolen the light from my eyes. Can't tell if it's real or in my mind. It's been a long, cold winter, a long, hard fall. No, it's not what I expected. It's no surprise at all. The smoke rising from the sea, dance and laugh with me, dance and laugh with me. Your touch on the soft warm breeze, please come back to me, please come back to me. dreams. And everything's not what it seems. It's been a long, cold winter, a long, hard fall. No, it's not what I expected. It's no surprise at all. It's been a long, cold winter, a long, hard fall. No, it's not what I expected. Yeah. No surprise at all. Thank you. This next song we'll do is called South of Somewhere. Just wanna be loved till the day I die. Just wanna lament, pay my rent and curl up and cry. Oh, God knows I can't do this on my own. Just carry me down to the riverside. Let the waters rise, I'll be baptized, I'll reborn alive. Oh, I'll change, but I know I'll stay the same. There ain't a thing that can make me worthy anyway. Oh, Carolina seems mighty fine, but it's far too far away from here. I know I'm falling just short of calling myself a better man this year. Well, I'm always out somewhere. Kept telling me why you ain't the one. Then you met a man and up and ran out to Charleston. Now I see, wasn't you, it was me. And I believe I'm not the man I thought I'd be. Oh, Carolina seems my mighty fine, but it's far too far away from here. I know I'm falling, just short of calling myself a better man this year. Well, I'm always south somewhere. Fine, but it's far too far away from here. I know I'm falling, just short of calling myself a better man this year. Well, I'm always south of somewhere. It don't matter where I am. Well, I'm always south of somewhere. And I do the best I can if I take a look and think that I ain't where I ought to be. Well, I'm always south of somewhere, and that's all right with me. Very nice. We'll do one more song here. This song's called Lion's Den. This was the oldest tune on the record that I mentioned. Do you take me for a fool? I'm not ready to leave. It's who I am, it's who I've always leaned on. The better part of me. I was lost and then found, and then I done got lost again. Now I'm clawing at the walls, and it echoes down the halls of this damn dark lion's den. I'm sorry if I can't relate. Why don't they see what you've done for the least of my brothers? You have done for me. Boy, they preach a loving word as they're sharpening their swords, and now they're calling for a wall, and I'm running down the halls amidst these rumors of war. It's okay, I can wait, 'cause I know these things take time. Though it's running out, I have no doubt we can get it all in line. The mighty forest will turn to ash, and the mountains to sand. But there ain't nothing that is harder to change than the mind of a man. You done real good at knowing God. My God, you still don't know what's good. And if you close your doors on refugees and wars, I don't think that you ever could.
Thank you, Cliff.
We find ourselves back here once again.
We do.
You don't play fiddle, do you?
I did once. We actually took violin lessons, and then my violin instructor broke my violin, and then we never saw him again.
Well, your music's good for fiddling. I'll say that much. I really
you.
enjoy playing fiddle on those tunes.
Good.
So, well, all right. So that takes us back before all of the songwriting started and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like growing up in Sugar Camp?
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Sugar Camp, Wisconsin is like, it's between Eagle River and Rhinelander, Wisconsin, if you know where those are. And it's a gorgeous place. It's sort of, it relies a lot on tourism in the summer and snowmobiling tourism in the winter. But yeah, so it's great to grow up in a place where a bunch of people vacation to get away from, their lives and to enjoy like the serene beauty, and then you're there all the time. So I loved that aspect of it. And growing up with a lot of music, my family was very musical. Like I said, my brother is a full-time musician, and lots of relatives sing and play other instruments. And my grandma had a karaoke bar, and so we would sing there all the time. And I attended a Lutheran school, so I was in church choir from a very young age, and singing with my family at church funerals and at Christmas time and stuff like that. So.
When did young Ross become a baritone?
Probably 8th grade, 9th grade, I don't know. But yeah, I used to kill some Michael Jackson tunes before the voice dropped.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the nice baritone voice is such a great feature, and I feel like it finds a good environment up here in this neck of the woods. Like there's like a lot of good baritones that have come out of this area and further north even,
Totally.
It's probably something to do with the winters.
Yeah,
it's kind of fries the chords a little bit.
Something like that, yeah.
All right, so take us through what did the average day of like 9th grade Ross look like in Sugar Camp?
9th grade Ross. I was either working in the summertime, I was working at the scrap yard. A good family friends own a scrap yard, and I worked there a lot. Another great folk origin story, I think, too.
For sure.
I check those boxes pretty well. Working at the scrap yard or an ice cream store. Not as great as a folk story, but could be. There could be some potential there.
Yeah.
So I worked there, and I was in sports. During the summer, it was also like off-season sports. We were in basketball leagues and stuff like that, and then school and doing academics, and that was a big priority for me too. So.
Oh, and when did you know that you were going to be a cartographer?
Not till college. I had no aspirations of cartography or geography, really. Especially the way that we teach geography in schools is just oftentimes you just memorize capitals, and so that's what people's perception of geography is. And so when people learn that fact about me, do you know the capitals? Do you know like all the capitals? I'm like, no, that's not actually the job. We don't just sit there and recite capitals for people. But yeah, it was in undergrad. I attended Stevens Point and went in undecided. I was playing basketball at the time there as well, and took a geology course, and really that was something I did like. I liked collecting rocks and learning the rock cycle. I thought that was really neat. to be able to look at a rock and tell where its origins were, and like kind of the story of this rock by these certain signs that you can see, and that fascinated me. So I took that course, and then you could see part of that was also overlapped so much with geography that it was like if you didn't double major, like you should, because like so many of the courses overlap, and I was like, all right, well, I'll do that then too. And then I actually geared more towards like the mapping part of it.
Interesting. Do you find, I mean, I'm assuming that you're using a fair amount of like technology and you're leveraging data that's available in map making today. Does that kind of create like an interesting tension with your more like unplugged acoustic proclivities as a musician?
It is great. It's a great balance, is what it is. Because then my day job and some of my other hobbies, I like tabletop games and I like video games too. So it's like looking at screens for those parts, but then not looking at screens and being unplugged and doing something with your hands, like whether it's doing this or even the painting stuff too. Like that's a great way to just unplug and get away from things and get in touch with yourself in different ways.
Yeah, I think of like fire or like fireplaces, not like just recklessly abandoned fire, or like a guitar fretboard is like an original screen, and
yeah,
I do think it is like nice to have that counterpoint. So I agree with you there, especially when you have jobs where you're administrating your music career or doing social media. It's like you kind of want to put this thing down and get away from it,
Yeah, that's part of it too. We're like now half of what I do and half of the energy I put towards music is just communication on screens, and it's a drag. Yeah. Honestly, it's a drag, and I don't like that part of it as much as I like just like writing songs. But for personal growth and artistic growth and professional growth in this realm, it's a necessity until you can offload that. And at this point, I have not been able to. Yeah.
Well, I liked at some point over the last years we've been chatting about stuff, and you've been talking about making plans. This will dovetail nicely into potentially your planning to do some shows on the road, and I enjoyed knowing that your qualifications as somebody who's very familiar with maps gives you like a little bit of an edge with like tour routing. And I'm just wondering, as a fan of your music, like how is that process going?
Yeah, I actually, there will be a series of shows that we'll talk about, or that hopefully we'll announce later in February, and after a lot of them get solidified. But yeah, I won't say too much, but I am using some cool mapping tools to plan out and see where we could go, and I have got some fun interactive things planned with that, I think, too. So it is nice. I love to be able to look at things spatially from the top down, from a bird's eye view, to be able to see and kind of like lean on those skills for just like plotting a route and where's home base, where could we do this and that, and yeah.
Excellent. Well, and then looking into the future, do you have any ideas for release, or is there any music coming up that's in the can or in post at this point, or is that all happening soon?
Gosh, hopefully soon. Part of the Palomino grant this year was 2 days of recording time at Pachyderm Studios down near the cities, and so I hope to leverage that this year. But kind of going back to the part of music that's not the music, last year with the record coming out, like most of the time I had since the recording was like working on listening to those mixes, communicating with the engineers and the engineer and my friend who was sitting in as a producer as well, and like polishing those for that part. And then it got to the logistics part of let's get these out, they're on vinyl records, so like there was all that to do, and then planning all the shows and stuff around that. So the short of it is that I didn't have a lot of time to write during that, or as much time or energy that I could, because it was all going towards those other aspects. So I've been working on writing a lot to hopefully to get some stuff, and it's been really nice this past probably past 6 months is where I've done most of my writing for music stuff, and it's been good, and hopefully we'll have be back in the studio sometime this year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not like you've got enough on your plate between the guitarography and learning how to play the banjo and taking care of a cat and all that kind of stuff. So, local shows that you want to mention that I think homegrown.
Yeah, I think the next couple shows. The next show I've got is March 2nd, actually, in Duluth here. It's at the Dovetail Marketplace and Cafe, and I'm really excited for that. I'm going to be doing that with Ken Waldman, a fiddler and poet who I'm sure you know of. Yeah, and he was in a plane crash on March 2nd, which is my birthday, and so we're tying together this what we're calling a plane crash birthday bash. And that's what we're going to be performing some of our songs. And
excellent. Well, this does a nice job of segueing into the final topic I wanted to address, which is something that I don't know if you'll ever lay to rest as a musician, but because of your origin story as a gravedigger's son, one of the things I've enjoyed about getting out and playing music with you is I hear some great jokes of a little bit of a gallows humor, or like graveside humor kind of color, and I'm hoping you might be willing to sprinkle those in a little bit. But as you got off to college and discovered cartography, and then you've been pursuing music and everything, at any point were you thinking, man, my dad's made a good business for the family, I like sugar camp, maybe I ought to stay here and do this community service?
yeah, I don't know if I necessarily thought that. And the part of the grave digging origin story is that my dad was an excavator. He's retired now, but and so when you do that in a small town, you also just you got the digging equipment. We have to dig some big holes to put people in. Can we put the two and two together here? So yeah, that was it. And I never, so it was even kind of a subset of his own business. But yeah, we would do that with him. And speaking of the grave humor parts, is that the song Gravedigger's Son has a bunch littered in there, and the whole chorus is built off of my phrase, or this phrase that my dad used to say of thorn excavating and grave digging were the last to let you down. And so he just loved saying that from his ice cold, his air conditioned excavator in the beaten down sun. He's drinking ice cold Diet Pepsi, and my brother and I are down in this grave, just leveling it so that it's good for the casket and in the concrete and all that stuff. But then there's other parts in the song too, are sort of, there's a bunch of grave puns. I'm trying to think. Folks can listen for them. See if I can pull. I'm not a handsome man, but I can always lend a hand, be it mine or some poor soul's under land. So that was one that kind of slips by, that I think is and so there's something like that in each verse of some sort of callback to this sort of this punniness of it, and this, I don't know, and maybe that's I think maybe we do that too, because death is so prevalent and something you can't avoid, so it's how do we deal with it? Do we make jokes about it? Do we because you have to live with it. You have to live with death. And it's actually been a very fun experiment over the past couple of years. I've been reading a lot more about just funeral stuff and humans, and how do we do it? How have we done it in the past? And part of what marks the earliest, and maybe I think I might stop me if I'm going off way too much of a tangent, but part of what marks the earliest civilizations and the early parts of human society are rituals and burials, and or rituals around death, and what do we do in burying our own. That's part of the earliest marks of any sort of of like human cognition and you know, becoming humans in history. Kind of deals with that. So it's just fascinating, and the way we deal with it nowadays too, and in different ways across the world is wild.
Well, you can come and hear Ross meditate on the human condition, the history of our civilization, and where we are all at on the map whenever you can catch him. I highly recommend it. This is the kind of thing I came out for tonight to hear and to be a paying witness to. So, do you have any other housekeeping you want to cover before we put this thing to rest ourselves?
I don't think so. I just appreciate Sacred Art for having me, and everybody, all the volunteers here, and for recording this, live streaming it, and hosting this beautiful space. And really honored to be here. So, yeah.
Awesome.
One thing I will say about the way we're doing this next tune is Gravedigger's Son, but we're going to start it with, on the album, there's a violin reprise called Gravedigger's Rest, and that came to be because Cassandra Sotos, who is the violinist on the record, she was just like warming up in the booth playing it, and I think honestly there's a combination of like it had been a long week, like 12-hour days in the studio, and hearing somebody do your song, like in a song that meant so much to you, that means so much to me, you know, like it was like, it was overwhelming, and I just like started bawling in the studio, and she's just warming up to do the song, and I was like, hey, can we cut that? Can we like do that as a track? And she like had no idea this was going on because she's just in the booth. And I like go in there, she's like, hey, can someone bring me the chords? And I like go in there, I'm just like wiping my eyes and like, yeah, here you go. And she's like, thanks. So that's how this little intro came to be on the record. Is I just thought it was too beautiful, and like it was a perfect representation of that song and what it's about, and Sugar Camp.
In that old logging town where my heart can still be found, I thought I would be the last to laying down. Oh, but you did up and run. You found yourself a better one, someone finer than this poor gravedigger's son. I'm not a handsome man. I can always lend a hand, be it mine, some poor souls under land. But you threw it all away. I didn't have the heart to stay. So one dreary winter's night, I drove away from that old logging town where my heart could still be found. I thought I'd be the last to lay down. Oh, but you did up and run. You found yourself a better one, someone finer than this poor gravedigger's son. Well, I've been known to let things rest. I surely did my best to let the ghost of you leave my mind. It became too hard to say. I was haunted night and day. Couldn't shake off the dust and leave it all behind. In that old logging town where my heart can still be found, I thought I'd be the last to lay him down. Oh, but you did up and run. You found yourself a better one, someone finer than this poor gravedigger's son. Well, I roamed from place to place. Everywhere I saw your face, I was reminded of the good times way back when. I finally came to a place where I couldn't remember you. So I picked up my shovel, started digging again. In that old logging town where my heart can still be found. Well, I thought I'd be the last to lay down. Oh, but you did up and run. You found yourself a better one, someone finer than this poor gravedigger's son. Someone finer than this poor gravedigger's son.
Well, thanks again to Ross Thorn for appearing on Live from the Heart, Songwriters, Storytellers Series. A big thank you to Eric Swanson for running the sound, and Jose Leon and crew for their video production tonight. Tune in next month for a live stream performance from Boku Frequency on February 28th. Live from the Heart is brought to you by Sacred Heart Music Center with support from the Minnesota State Arts Board. You can go to www.sacredheartmusic.org to find out what's coming up next at the Music Center. Information is also available on the Sacred Heart Facebook and Instagram page. Thank you so much.